All right, so get ready, folks, because today we are diving into some seriously weird and maybe kind of gross facts.
This is going to be good.
We're looking at this Listverse article called 10 Stomach-Turning Facts That We Wish Weren't True. And it's a wild ride, let me tell you.
I love Listverse, so I can't wait to see what they came up with.
It's not like gory or anything, but definitely creepy, eerie, unsettling, the kind of stuff that makes you look at everyday things and go, wait, what?
Like makes you rethink things you take for granted.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm ready.
Okay, well, buckle up then, because we're talking about creepy islands, contaminated peanut butter, and even rumors of real human remains at Disneyland.
Oh, wow. Okay, you weren't kidding.
Nope, not kidding at all. So let's start with this creepy island, okay? It's called the Island of the Dolls, or La Isla de las Muñecas.
Okay.
And it's near Mexico City. Now picture this.
Okay.
Instead of beautiful beaches and lush trees, it's covered in hundreds, maybe thousands of these decaying dolls.
Oh, that's creep.
Just imagine, like, sun-bleached, weather-beaten dolls hanging from trees, their lifeless eyes staring blankly.
I feel like I've seen pictures of this.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that shows up on those, like, creepiest places on Earth lists.
Yeah, okay, so why are there so many dolls there?
Well, the story goes that the island's caretaker, this guy named Don Julian Santana, found a drowned girl in one of the canals, and he became fixated on honoring her spirit, and he started believing that dolls were the key to doing that.
So he collected dolls and just started hanging them all over the island.
Yeah, as a tribute to the girl.
That's an incredibly sad story, and I can see how it could lead to some, well, unusual behavior.
Totally, but covering an entire island in dolls, that's next level.
It makes you wonder about what was going on in his mind.
Yeah, like how grief can manifest in such strange ways.
And the impact of isolation, too. If you're living alone on an island surrounded by, well, creepy dolls, that's got to mess with your head, right?
Yeah, I mean, after a while, wouldn't that start to feel normal?
Right, like what even is reality at that point? It's fascinating and a little bit scary.
Okay, speaking of things that are a little bit scary, and maybe make you lose your appetite, did you know that the FDA allows a certain amount of rat hair in peanut butter?
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's true.
Ew, that's disgusting. Really?
That's true. I know, it sounds super gross.
But how? Why would they allow that?
Well, when you think about the scale of, like, peanut harvesting and processing, it becomes almost impossible to get rid of every single contaminant.
So they just accept that there's going to be, like, a little bit of rodent in there.
Pretty much. The FDA sets limits, of course, but still.
I'm never going to look at peanut butter the same way again.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, moving on to something a little more macabre. Have you ever been on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland?
Yeah, of course. Who hasn't?
Well, there's this rumor that's been going around for years that when they were building the ride, Walt Disney himself wasn't happy with the fake bones they were using for decoration.
He wanted it to be more realistic.
Exactly. He wanted it to be as authentic as possible, so...
So he used real human skeletons.
That's the rumor, yeah. Supposedly he got them from UCLA's anatomy lab. Real skeletons on a family-friendly ride.
That is so creepy. But is it true?
Well, they say the real bones were eventually replaced, but still, just the thought of it, it adds a whole other layer to the ride.
Yeah, I mean, even if they're gone now, the fact that they were there at all,
Yeah.
that's wild.
It makes you wonder what else might be hidden behind the scenes, right?
It's like a reminder that even in the happiest place on Earth,
Yeah.
there are secrets.
Okay, this next one might make your skin crawl a little.
Oh, what is it?
We all shed skin, right? A little flake here, a little flake there.
That's totally normal.
But get this, you'll never guess how much we actually shed every year.
How much?
The average person sheds about 1.5 pounds of skin.
1.5 pounds. That's like a bag of flour.
I know, right? And that's just in 1 year.
So over a lifetime, how much are we talking about?
It's crazy. You basically shed roughly half your body weight in skin over your entire life.
Ugh. That's both amazing and disgusting.
It's like literally shedding your old self,
Constantly renewing.
Yeah, like a snake shedding its skin, but all the time.
I never really thought about it that way.
Okay, get ready for this next one. It's about elephants.
Okay, I love elephants.
They're amazing creatures, for sure.
What about them?
Well, their output is something else.
You mean like their poop?
Exactly. Did you know that an elephant produces enough waste in a single day to outweigh most humans?
How much are we talking about?
220 pounds per day.
220 pounds? That's insane.
It's a lot, right? But it makes sense when you think about how much they eat.
Yeah. I guess they're constantly eating.
They're herbivores, and their digestive systems aren't the most efficient, so a lot of what they eat just passes right through them.
So they're basically eating and pooping machines.
Pretty much. It's kind of amazing, actually.
But all that waste, it must create some environmental issues, right?
You'd think so, but you might be surprised to learn that elephant dung actually plays a really important role in the ecosystem.
How so?
Well, it helps with seed dispersal and even forest regeneration. It's like a natural fertilizer, packed with nutrients that help create these biodiversity hotspots.
Wow. So what seems like a disgusting fact is actually a good thing for the environment.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of how nature can take something that seems like waste and turn it into something beneficial.
That's pretty cool.
All right, let's move on to a creature that's blurring the lines between water and land, the snakehead fish.
I've heard of those. Aren't those the fish that can, like, walk on land?
That's the one.
How is that even possible?
Well, they have these modified gill structures called gill arches that basically work like primitive lungs.
So they can breathe air.
Yeah, and they also have these strong paddle-like fins that they use to wriggle across land.
And they can travel pretty far distances too, right?
Yeah, up to a quarter of a mile on land.
That's crazy.
And what's even more alarming is that they're an invasive species in North America.
Oh no, that's not good.
They're disrupting ecosystems, and they don't have any natural predators here, so their populations can really explode.
So basically, a walking, air-breathing, invasive fish.
Yep, pretty much.
That sounds like something out of a horror movie.
It really does. It's a real-life monster fish.
It kind of is, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of creatures with unexpected abilities, get this. Horses can't vomit.
Wait, really? Horses can't puke. Like, at all.
Nope, not even a little bit.
That seems, I don't know, kind of important.
Right, you would think it's like a basic animal thing.
Yeah, like if you eat something bad, you throw up.
It's a pretty common way to deal with that, right?
Huh.
But not horses.
So how come they can't? Like, is there something wrong with them?
Nothing wrong, exactly. It's just their anatomy.
Oh, okay, so like their stomachs are different or something.
Yeah, so their esophageal muscles, the ones that connect their mouth to their stomach, are super strong. And then their stomach attaches to the esophagus at like a really sharp angle.
I see.
And on top of that, they don't have the same kind of abdominal muscles that help, push stuff back up.
So they just can't physically do it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
If they eat something bad, they're kind of stuck with it.
That seems kind of dangerous.
It is, actually. It makes them really sensitive to what they eat, but somehow they've survived just fine for, like, millions of years.
Huh. Well, I guess it works for them.
Right. Like, evolution is weird.
Speaking of weird, you know what else is weird? That whole Mike the Headless Chicken thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
That story is so bizarre. Like, the chicken lived for 18 months after they chopped its head off.
It's crazy, right? And people thought it was a hoax, but it's totally true.
So how is that even possible? Like, how do you live without a head?
It's not that common, but it does happen sometimes. Like, a chicken can survive for a little bit after being, decapitated.
A year and a half? Come on.
I know, right? So basically, the way it works is sometimes if the cut is just right, it misses the brainstem.
Oh, so the brainstem's still in there.
Yeah, and there's still some oxygen left in the spinal cord, so the body can kind of keep functioning for a short time.
Okay, but still, 18 months is way longer than a short time.
Right, so in Mike's case, the farmer who owned him was able to feed him directly through his neck with an eyedropper, which helped him survive.
Oh, wow. That's both amazing and kind of disturbing.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So basically, this one, lucky, or maybe unlucky, chicken, ended up becoming a sideshow attraction because he could live without his head.
Talk about defying the odds.
It makes you wonder what it really means to be alive, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Okay, let's move on to another animal with an unusual trick. The Texas horned lizard. This thing shoots blood out of its eyes.
Seriously.
Dead serious. It's one of the weirdest defense mechanisms I've ever heard of.
I mean, I've heard of lizards that, like, change color or drop their tails,
Yeah,
but shooting blood from their eyes, that's next level.
right. And it's not just like a random splatter either. They can actually aim these jets of blood at predators.
Oh no, that's even worse.
And it can shoot them up to 5 feet away.
5 feet, that's incredible and gross.
I know. But what's really interesting is that the blood contains a special chemical that's super repulsive to, like, wolves and coyotes.
So it's like a built-in pepper spray.
Yeah, basically.
And what if that doesn't work? Do they just die?
Well, they have a backup plan. They can also puff themselves up and show off their spines to make themselves look bigger and scarier.
So shoot blood from their eyes, then puff up like a spiky balloon. This lizard is amazing.
Right. Talk about resourceful.
I mean, it makes sense, though.
Yeah.
It lives in a pretty harsh environment, so it needs some serious defense mechanisms to survive.
Speaking of harsh environments, let's circle back to the fact about fecal matter on coffee mugs. That one really grossed me out.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever look at an office coffee mug the same way again.
So how do we avoid becoming part of that statistic? Like, how do we make sure our mugs are actually clean?
Well, first of all, good hand washing is crucial, obviously, and then make sure you're regularly cleaning and disinfecting shared surfaces.
Yeah, especially kitchen sponges. Those things are like bacteria magnets.
Exactly. And maybe it's time to start advocating for dishwasher-safe mugs in the office.
That's a good idea. I'm all for that.
Because let's face it, no one wants to be sipping their coffee with, a side of something extra.
Definitely not.
It's true, office kitchens can be pretty scary places.
Yeah, and it's not just the coffee mugs either. I mean, think about all the other surfaces we touch throughout the day.
Oh yeah, door handles, elevator buttons, keyboards.
Exactly. It's a germ fest out there.
It's enough to make you want to stay home and never leave.
Speaking of staying home, I'm kind of glad I don't have to deal with an office kitchen anymore. Working from home definitely has its perks.
Yeah, no kidding. You get to control your own environment a little more.
Exactly. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into these stomach-turning facts, I'm curious, what was your biggest takeaway?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the reminder that even though these facts are kind of gross and unsettling, they're also incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to think about them, but you can't help but be intrigued.
Right. It's like peeking behind the curtain of everyday life and seeing the weird, kind of gross, but ultimately really cool stuff that's going on.
And it makes you realize that the world is way more complex than we usually give it credit for.
Totally. I mean, who knew that horses can't vomit?
Or that a lizard can shoot blood out of its eyes.
Or that our peanut butter might have a few extra ingredients?
Yeah, that one's gonna stick with me for a while.
Me too.
So I guess the big takeaway is that sometimes the truth is stranger and grosser than fiction.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's okay. It's all part of what makes life so interesting.
well said. Well, folks, that's it for this week's deep dive into 10 stomach-turning facts that we wish weren't true.
We hope you enjoyed it, even if it made you a little queasy.
And maybe, just maybe, it'll make you look at the world a little differently. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and maybe wash your hands a little more often.